Okay, great to see a few new faces. Lots of engineer. Thank you so much. Yeah, so thank you everybody for coming again to the steering committee call. Yeah, so it's 24th of February. We run this at the end of every month to give an overall update as to anything to do with steering committee over the past month, and also any ongoing work that's been going on SIP-wise in general. Just an overall summary over the past month, I would say. I think that's probably the ways to frame it, because we have a weekly call, but this is like almost like a recap of everything over the past month. Yeah, so yeah, let's get started. A bit of intro for those, because I do think some of them are new here. Just to give a very quick overview of the steering committee and its role in the SIP process itself, quickly go over that, and then we'll get into the meat of today. So, steering committee, if you guys want to give a quick intro, yeah, that'll be great. Quick intros to yourself and also how you guys fit in to the overall SIP process.
I think Jude is having audio issues. Gina, if you're not, if you want to give a quick intro to both while Jude fixes, that would be great.
Gina, can you hear me now?
I'm muted.
Oh. Gina, let's hear from Gina, please.
Yeah, so I was just saying, if you're new to this call, there is a pretty robust stacks improvement proposal process, which really outlines essentially all of the steps and governance that we go through before making sort of changes to the stacks blockchain and implementing things at the consensus level. And so there's a lot of people that play a really crucial role in this. There are folks who sort of submit ideas who are community members. There are these considery advisory boards that really contribute technical support and also give thorough reviews to all of the proposals. And every SIP really goes through an extremely thorough process to ensure that it's getting a diverse viewpoint and perspective. And as the steering community, we are really sort of one of the last steps in the process to ensure that every SIP has gone through this thorough process in terms of, you know, that it also has sort of rules for activation, and we essentially determine if those rules have been met and if SIPs are ratified. So yeah, great graph here. And the process is obviously open to anyone. The steering committee is really just sort of stewards of the process, but you know, the SIP process, I think, has been most utilized by all the community members in the Stacks ecosystem. So it's really sort of by the people, for the people.
Yeah, I think that really sums it up. Yeah, if anybody got any other comments, feel free. Otherwise, I'll introduce the next stuff. So yeah, like I said, there are three groups of people sort of guarding this process, not guarding, but facilitate this process, vetting this process, vetting all the SIPs, whether it's technical or non-technical. So 2 groups have been built out properly. I'm working on the 3rd one, which is a SIP editor. I'll talk to you about that a little bit later. But yeah, that's going to what happened in February. Give a quick summary of what happened. I will talk about the first one, maybe, because that one has been talked about and being shaped up, basically, and I'm aware the core engineer actually need this for the SBTC. So I'm sort of working with Werner, who who was originally a community member, now works for Hero, but he took this idea on and really developed it as a community member, building on what Frigger did. So a bit of work been going on that front, and I think we should be able to get it into some sort of proper draft to be reviewed over the next weeks. But probably need a bit more clarity, developers input. But yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, and also this week we had, this month we had a bit more development on the wallet client API, which Janet presented. So that one is very impactful because it affects many different type of Bitcoin transactions on the Stacks network. I don't know if anybody wanna chime in on what this is about briefly, but yeah, I think we are basically gathering all the input from different builders and different wallet provider on this. So if you are a wallet provider or builders, please chime in on this, what you want to see. Yeah. Anybody want to comment on that particular SIP? Okay. Yeah, so also we have the SIP 21. Maybe Jude can give a very quick overview of what's gone on over the past month, particularly about the mini SBTC, which is really cool. That will be in testnet.
Hey, can you all hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry about earlier. Sure. So mini SBTC is really just a way to try to front load a lot of the work for SIP 21 in a way that does not first require a hard fork. The plan is to separate the forking rules, which are described in SIP 21, from just the token itself, as well as some of the token mechanics, so that the latter can be a testable artifact we make available to developers sooner rather than later, in order to iterate on its design and get early feedback before having to take the plunge and roll out a hard fork to do so.
Cool. And it'll be breaking down SBTC. The full product will be broken down into several SIPs. Is that correct?
At least two. The recovery mode section probably will be a separate SIP because that requires a couple other changes that are not documented, and the SIP is already quite long. And that was feedback we got from SIP Stacks 2.1 from the technical cab, like, don't make SIPs a giant grab bag of features.
Just a question for myself then. Do they, if they're broken down to two SIPs, does that mean each of them need to be voted on, like by the whole of community via some sort of platform?
I think in this particular case that might happen because the recovery mode section of SIP 21 is dependent on an L1 working group improvement. So it's a completely different track that would activate with whatever the L1 working group improvement SIPs will be, which I think will be a separate hard fork, but it's so far out that I'm actually not sure.
Cool. Thank you so much for the update. Maybe if you could also give us a quick update on Stack Super1. I know block height has been chosen, but yeah.
That it has. It's merged to the master branch. We're spinning up nodes right now at the foundation with Stacks 2.1. We are working with exchange partners and explorers to make sure that they are prepared for the upgrade to hit when it does hit. Block height has been chosen. Once that block height passes and the Stacks 2.1 rules and the POX2 smart contract launch, then the steering committee will convene and verify that all the activation criteria have been met, and then transition to the SIP to ratified status, along with SIP 18 and SIP 20.
Thank you so much. Congratulations for all the code devs. Yeah, thanks for the hard work. Next month, we'll see it. So I look forward to it. The last one, SIP 18, that will also be part of the activate, that will also get ratified when Stack Super1 gets ratified. So
that's right.
Lots of things coming, right? Sure.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Cool. Yeah. A bit of work on sort of trying to get SIP 19. I'm trying to get SIP 19 also sort of it needs to be adopted by a couple of entities. So actually 3, I think. Here already adopted it, but we need 2 more. So I'm sort of trying to gather 2 more people for SIP 19. So all this stuff could be activated. Next month, I think we'll have a lot of SIP ratified. So look out for that. So yeah, exciting March to come. So just to give everybody a bit of, other side of the coin, which is this more the SIP effort, not the non-technical side front, I would say, is I'm working this quarter to gather SIP editors, because that's basically the missing puzzle in the whole of the SIP process. Or there are SIP editors, but they were also part of consideration advisory board, trying to break that up so we have a more decentralized decision-making process, and with more eyes on SIPs too. So I'm working on putting together a standard operation procedure, like stuff, which will tell exactly how the SIP editor is going to be vetting each SIP and how they come together in much more detail than the current SIP 000. So just to be more specific when new editors come on board, and also that I'm trying to make sure it's simplified the way how a new proposer comes and propose something. So I'll show you the diagram. So this is sort of what I'm working on, because if somebody has a SIP idea, I like them to know exactly what to do and how to do it. So I'm playing around with, I'm working with the SIP editors to formulate this process in more detail. So it goes from maybe having some sort of form to sort of shape your idea, help you at least as a tool if you want to use it to shape your idea, and you start posting on forum, and everything goes back, links back to forum, because what we have at the moment is the conversation. It can be here or there or Discord and everywhere. So I'm trying to redirect the focus of the conversation to one place at different stages, so it's all consolidated. So before it becomes a proper draft, they could be in Stacks forum, but when it goes to draft, then all the conversation gets redirected to GitHub, and it gets reviewed at each stage. So yeah, that's what I'm working on at the moment. If you have any feedback, please let me know. Yes, so I'm also working on public Twitter space, because I would like the SIP process to be more transparent, and SIP editors gonna host a Twitter space next Friday. We're gonna talk about all the different types of SIPs, how we're gonna prioritize them, and that's something I'm working with Jenny to help figure out a way of a better evaluation and prioritization of SIPs, so we can actually facilitate the CABs or the steering committee which ones to or better resource allocation, I would say. Yep. Yeah, so on other fronts, the SBTC, trying to utilize the SIP weekly call, maybe Twitter space too, to get some early community engagement and education. And alongside that, I'm trying to facilitate other SIPs to come to fruition, at least get to the draft and get to several stages after that where I can. So that's the SIP efforts front. Does anybody have any questions or comments? And it's a call for you to join this X-Cool SIP Editors Committee. Okay. So Twitter Space, a bi-weekly Twitter Space, it's going to happen starting from next Friday. So please tune in if you want to just listening. Feel free, and shout out to all the willing volunteers who want to be part of this process. already had a couple of meetings with them internally. It's been amazing to have them. And if you want to hear any conversation that we have, we're going to be all public. So we're going to talk about it in governance channel, in Discord. Yeah, so chime in. So I'll leave the floor open. Don't want to keep people for too long. If you got any comments, anything you want to bring up, here's your chance. Okay, can I bring something up?
I wanna say a few things. We have some folks that it's the first time coming here, and I'd like to hear their thoughts as they come into this community as to what things you know are missing that we should have attention from. Perhaps you have experience with other blockchains or other systems, and what things do you think we should prioritize and perhaps start an improvement process on?
If those new folks are shy, then feel free to just drop your questions in the chat
Yeah.
or just message us separately. But that was a
Chat
great
is
question.
fine.
Thank
Chat
you.
is fine. Thank you.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? This is Binay.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. First of all, I want to start off by sharing my recent trip. I just came back from Nepal, back to the United States yesterday, and while I was there, I had an opportunity to share with two different university students. Those are like senior students in software engineering and electronics engineering departments. And I got to talk to them about Web3, building in open permissionless networks, and the possibility of things that can be built on Bitcoin through stacks and using Clarity. So I want to take this opportunity to kind of connect to what we're discussing here today about the being a SIP editor and directing focus to certain ideas. And then how can we, as we activate these new developers and builders that come into the ecosystem, how can we get them exposed to this kind of information so that they know that they have a voice over the development and things that can happen in these open networks. So I want to ask for, like, what's the best way to engage these newcomers to the ecosystem. That's an open question. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Hero, for making this happen every week. Cheers.
I think all of the sort of engineering meetings really tend to default to public. I know a lot of the work that is happening in regards to SBTC, et cetera, happens on weekly calls that are open to the community. And I think that that's one of the best paths to onboard folks, is have them sort of just be able to participate sort of from the get-go. And I do think that the SIPs are brought up in those calls somewhat regularly, in terms of that's a big part of what helps to sort of move the process along. So I guess I'm curious, do you have any suggestions or things that feel top of mind from your perspective?
First thing I was thinking to tackle next would be, I actually offered to do a 6-week Clarity bootcamp, and I already work with a Clarity engineer in Nepal that he's going to be acting as a mentor and do this in real life clarity camps for, we're thinking around like 40 to 50 students. So maybe we can start that and then have that also be integrated with some of the entrepreneurial aspects of building a Web3 native company and other things that are necessary to become successful overall. So I would like to discuss ways, how we can take that bootcamp period and then, maximally provide information that would have the highest leverage.
Do you think it's you want to bring them into improving the chain and the or like to build apps, become entrepreneur, building their own platform like NeoSwap, or yeah, what sort of direction are you thinking of?
I think it can start more general because it's a lot of students and then everybody will have their own idea and interests. So just to have 10,000 foot overview of, okay, this is what's happening, these are possible directions, it could be useful to focus, time in this specific problem, things of that nature.
So just from what I've seen in the ecosystem, I think here is a great space if you want to contribute to the governance, say the SIPCO, to the governance and the core blockchain sort of design. I do think if your students are interested in building dApps, I think Albert's bootcamp is probably a good place to send them to. Because here we are not discussing about entrepreneur, like the market opportunities and stuff. It's more about improving the blockchain and the governance. So I think there's several different routes.
Yeah, just second that, Hero Gamer. Benay, it sounds like you're in touch with Adam Hahn at the Stacks Foundation as well. He would also be a great resource to continue that conversation with.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, I have a call with him a little bit later on. So sounds like I'll follow on and then see what we can do. Thank you guys.
Thanks for the question. Yeah, it's a great question. And thank you for bringing people into Stacks. Amazing.
Of course, that's the mission, right?
I see another question in the chat. Ali, do you want to unmute your mic and ask a question? Do you want me to read it out? Okay, I'll just read it out. Regarding Signif, can we only mint one NFT with one call that is tied to a single unique ID? The idea is that I'm working on is basically minting 2 to 3 NFTs, like digital NFT in some sort of metaverse, NFT tied to a single unique ID. Is that possible? Anybody can take that?
I'm pulling up SIP09 right now. One sec.
I think I could say something to that. So SIP9 doesn't specify anything for mint. So with mint, so there is a built-in clarity function to perform an NFT mint that basically you're going to be calling that from within some function in your NFT contract. But you're essentially free to do that however you would like in your function. So it's going to be one call to the NFT mint expression, but you could call that however you like inside of whatever function you're calling to do the mint. So I think there's nothing specific to SIP9 here, because that's just specifying more about transferring, getting the owner, getting the URI, and then mint is much more flexible. So maybe if you have, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but you can feel free to ping me if you have a more specific question.
Cool. Okay, if anybody not got the question, I will ask my own question, maybe to the whole panel. So I understand Stacks, like nodes improvement is pretty critical infrastructure too. It's not really in the SIP process. Oh, Jesse just jumped in. A great timing. So nodes improvement is not captured in the SIP process. It's probably more of a layer one improvement, I suppose. So is it worth using this the SIP space to talk about to get into topics like this? That's my question.
I think so. I think that, I mean, there's operations track SIPs, for example, which focus on like how best to run the nodes. We could probably create a new consideration really just for, node improvements. The purpose of the SIP process is really like, be a forum where we can agree on, or disparate parties trying to do the same thing can agree on like a standardized way of doing things. That could apply to behaviors of the system. We'd have to just take a look and see what the exact question and the proposals are, of course, but I don't think there's not space for it.
I guess I think when I last spoke to other people on nodes, it might not even need a SIP operational SIP. And if it doesn't, let's just assume it doesn't, but it's still aiming to improve the nodes implementation or how easy to spin up something. It's an improvement to the network. So
yes,
yes,
I agree that this is important, but I don't think it's SIP worthy. And the reason why is that, a lot of these columns here don't really translate to a SIP that you can, disagree on. Like, how much space does it take? Like right now, yeah, it's around 70 gigabytes. And a year from now, it's going to be larger, 2 years larger. Same with CPU memory, it could be larger. I think this is more of just a docs issue than a SIP.
My question is less about whether it should be a SIP or not. It's whether we should use the SIP space like a weekly call to highlight some of these development.
I don't know.
Gather the people in the same room using the SIP space that we have regular ongoing space to talk about improvements.
Improvement to how to launch nodes, or I'm a little confused there.
Yeah, how to spin up a node easier.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't see how that would be a SIP, honestly.
I'm not trying to make it a SIP. I'm just asking whether it could be a weekly SIP call, could be a useful space to talk about, get people together and highlight some of these things going on behind the background.
Okay.
Hey guys, I think it might depend on the exact suggestions, right? Like if suddenly someone's like, hey, we should maybe optimize the way the nodes are running, for this particular scenario, like, privacy or bandwidth constraints, and therefore we should take other things into consideration. I think that might make a difference versus like, in this particular graphic, it's like, okay, the specifications for, what the end results of what the nodes have been designed to do, you need this much storage and this much memory. That's a little different. Can't really standardize around that, but like you could standardize around like, hey, we want to enable people to use Tor, or we want to enable people to, use this other secure solution for running their nodes or something of that nature. That might be a little bit different.
So I know that from the early commits of the Stacks blockchain had borrowed a lot of inspiration from Bitcoin D. I know just in the past couple of years that I've seen a lot of improvements to for Tor or other network communication, even besides TCP or things, just to make Bitcoin D more more accessible and reliable, and also censorship proof. I think we can just borrow those ideas and almost port them from the Bitcoin D project over to us.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but that was my little question. That's a Cool. Anybody got any other things to talk about? Okay. If not, yeah. So next Friday we're trying to get the update on Code of Conduct SIP. And that's it. So yeah, see you next Friday. Thank you for your time, and I give all the time back to you.
Thanks, everybody.